Welcome to Real Success Stories. My name is John Wadsworth, president of Strawn & Company Insurance. I'll be your host as we bring you exciting content featuring exceptional individuals and organizations. Throughout my professional career, I've witnessed many talented people build successful businesses and significantly impact their communities. We will now have the opportunity to bring these stories to you. We'll have the privilege of speaking with business owners and highly successful individuals who are involved in a wide variety of industries. We will see success defined in many different ways. Our guests will share their stories of how they built their businesses to reveal strategies that you can duplicate in your endeavors. We'll get to experience the human side of success as we identify the challenges and obstacles that entrepreneurs endure. We will see the thin line that separates giving up from true success. Along the way, we'll have the opportunity to speak with nonprofit organizations that are creating opportunities for success in their communities. Another goal of this program is to give these great organizations broader exposure and awareness to help continue their success. As a listener, we hope you feel encouraged to support the organizations that we feature. Through this open and honest forum, we aim to build community and foster success among all who wish to pursue their dreams. You will hear real success stories of people just like you and me. Thanks for listening, and check back regularly for new episodes. Make it a great day. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Real Success Stories. I hope that you're having a great day wherever you may be. I'm your host, John Wadsworth, and we are very excited to welcome today's guest, Mr. Lewis Robinson, Managing Director and Senior Wealth Advisor with CapSouth Wealth Management. Lewis, thank you for joining us. How are you today, sir?
I am fantastic as usual.
Excellent. Lewis, first off, I can't thank you enough for granting us some of your time today. You and I go back a little ways and have had some fun projects that we've worked on together. And over the time, I've been witness to some of the services that you provide and what you do with CapSouth. And your firm and you yourself personally have quite an incredible story that I think our listeners will really enjoy. So let's hop right into it and tell me a little bit about CapSouth and as a firm, what you guys offer.
Well, CapSouth was founded actually last year was our 20th anniversary and also our 10th anniversary in McDonough. It was founded at that time by Donald Bolden in Dothan, Alabama. And since then, in 2016, we partnered with United Capital out of California. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, they were bought out by Goldman Sachs. And so since then, we've been working partner with Goldman Sachs for the services that we offer, the portfolios, the financial management, and so forth. And we've had a real good growth here and company-wide. And it's just been a fantastic journey because it's something I really like to do. You feel like you're helping clients rather than complying with Internal Revenue regulations, which is what I was doing as a CPA primarily. It's just been a much more pleasant.
Hopping in a little deeper there on your services that you personally offer now, your enjoyment in what you do, something that we've talked about this afternoon prior to recording, as well as, previously in our conversations with one another. You have a real mission in your personal practice here at CapSouth. Tell us more about that.
All right, before I go into that, let me just give you a broad background of what we do as a firm.
Oh, yes, sir. Please.
Of course, we do investment management like most firms. We do financial and tax planning, unlike most firms. We do wealth management, and also we do employer retirement consulting. That's our primary areas of practice. We do a lot of planning. That's very few clients we have that we don't do planning for. And I particularly have an area that I love. I love tax planning. That goes back to my days as a CPA, because at that time, I couldn't do tax planning because nobody wanted to pay after they pay for the tax prep fee. They didn't want to pay for planning. And I couldn't do it free because I had too much to do. So this is a platform where I've been able to do tax planning. What is tax planning? It involves a lot of different things. And this is particularly applicable to clients or prospects who are in their 60s and beyond. because that's when you go from accumulation phase to a distribution phase. There's a lot of difference in a distribution phase because you get involved with your Social Security, your RMDs, whether you're charitable, you lost your itemized deductions, your kids are gone, you don't have all these different credits. You have phase outs, you got phase ins, you got Medicare premiums, you got IRMA adjustments, you've got investment income credit taxes, you've got Roth conversions you need to look at. And one of the things I try to work with clients is get a level tax bracket over your retirement years. I don't like tax spikes. The objective is to minimize those spikes. And we do that a lot of different ways by doing Roth conversions, doing charitable planning. Charitable planning is something I have a huge passion for. And unfortunately, it's an area where a lot of people don't understand it. It's an area, it's not complicated, it's just detailed, and people don't pay attention to the detail or don't want to do it. Unfortunately, a lot of the churches and charitable organizations don't reach out to the donors to explain to them, here's some options you have, because a lot of people who in their really charitable years, meaning they're already got the kids grown and they can give more, nobody sits down with them and talks to them and tell them, what can you do? Because most of those same people don't itemize deductions. So giving an extra $10,000 to their church or $5,000 to their charity, they usually don't get a tax benefit for it because they don't itemize deductions anyhow. Well, that's what I work with, is helping people making their charitable planning more tax effective. It's the one very enjoyable. It's a passion I have. That's the reason I get up every morning, because that's what I'm thinking about. And I've done a lot of seminars on this area, and I've got several of them right now getting ready to put on the air. But that's probably the biggest thing. And Social Security planning, that's another one. I do a lot of Social Security. Several years ago, I did a lot of seminars, and I still do them, but some of the planning opportunities for Social Security have changed in the last 4 or 5 years, but there's still a lot of things people who getting ready to claim Social Security need to look at. Unfortunately, people who are getting that age, they look at it almost like the lottery. I've been buying a ticket for 40 years, and now I can cash that ticket in, and that's what I'm going to do. They don't look at the alternatives. They don't look at it what it really is. It's a pretty good size investment. If you were to calculate the present value of your Social Security benefit at your retirement age, you'd find in a lot of cases that's probably your biggest asset.
Oh, wow.
And when you look at it from that standpoint, you need to try to maximize the rate of return that you're going to get on it. Don't just cash it in because it's available. And we recommend clients in a lot of cases to postpone, defer, because you can get more. And those same clients who are doing that, that means probably they're taking funds out of the funds that we are managing, which, if you understand how a business works, that means our income is not going to go up, it's going to go down.
Certainly.
But from a fiduciary standpoint, that's what a client should consider and look at and make sure they understand all the nuances of either defer or postpone, and they at least need to know what it means to them. And there's a lot of planning in for widows. One of the things I work with, talk to somebody, ask them, have you ever heard the widow tax? And well, you won't find that in the tax code. But when the first spouse dies, the remaining or surviving spouse is going to know what the widow tax is.
Certainly.
And it's very expensive.
Yes, sir.
And that's another thing that we work with. And I work with clients, somebody young like yourself, John, that may have parents or older, may have a lot of funds that are going to be left. You need to leave them in an efficient manner. And in a lot of cases, that means getting the parents to pay for the tax up front, so when their kids inherit it, they don't have to pay at that time. It's usually cheaper that way.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. And of course, hopefully this isn't obvious, but the prepayment of the taxes, as you just described, I wasn't even aware, of that as an option. So here we go. I've already learned something in our first 8 minutes of recording here. So that's interesting.
Yeah, we do a lot of Roth conversions. We do a lot of qualified charitable planning, a lot of those.
If you don't mind, let's dive in on the charitable planning a little bit. And, I certainly don't want to go too far into the weeds, but you mentioned the charitable planning is a part of your practice that you find, a lot of reward in. Tell us a little bit more about that and what both the benefit to the charity as well as the benefit to the taxpayer is with the charitable planning.
I can give you 2 or 3 different illustrations. One of them is a donor-advised fund. A lot of people are not familiar with that, but a donor-advised fund is a 401(c) charitable organization that enables you to make a donation when you need a tax deduction for it. Then it enables you to make the distribution to your favorite charity as you so desire. You don't have to make it the same year. It can be over many years, and I've got one client he's had his probably 10 or 15 years, and it's still growing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a way to get a deduction. And probably the best illustration, I had a client who was, I think he was in the early 50s or so. He had some stock that had appreciated a lot. And you can give appreciated stock to a charity and get a deduction for the value. You don't ever pay tax on that growth.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically funded his charitable donation for about 7 or 8 years. And he got a tax deduction because he had a lot of income that year. If he doesn't have a lot of income, I can help him create some through a Roth conversion, which means he never pays tax again on it, so you've offset it. I've done that quite a few times on the donor advised fund. Typically, if I got a client, say 62,
mm-hmm.
and he's got an IRA, well, at age 7.5, he can start making contributions to his IRA, qualified charitable distributions from his IRA to his church or charity, never pay tax on it. Well, then he's 62, so he's not 70. So what does he do? We do the donor advised fund by batching contributions. If he can afford it, we'd go all the way out to 70.5.
Mm-hmm.
So he's prepaid his charitable donations, got a charitable savings account, so to speak.
Okay.
If he can't do it that many, we'll do 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is. And this is particular for the client who the biggest portion of the itemized deduction is charitable donation.
Charitable. Yes, sir.
For instance, current law, $10,000 for taxes is all you can deduct.
Right.
Let's say you got, say, even $10,000 in mortgage interest. That's $20,000. The standard deduction is around $25,000, $26,000. So if you give $5,000 to charity, you're not getting any benefit because you're going to get that much without it. But batching, you can put it in multiple years and stack it on top and get the full advantage of it.
Yes, sir. So in kind of what I'm hearing here is the client really is looking for a not a one-time consultation. This is an ongoing relationship with, even if tax laws didn't change, and we all know tax laws change, right. Even if they didn't change, there's a lot of moving parts where if you move more on the left-hand side, you have to move more on the right-hand side, or or if you move more at the top, you've got to move more at the bottom. So where you make a decision in one spot impacts what you can do in another, and then when you add on top of that the fact that the rules may change in any given year, that's where a professional such as yourself really becomes critical in managing the wealth that someone has worked their whole life to create.
Yeah, and just keep in mind whatever you save in taxes, it's not like you got somebody a great rate of return last year. Now this year's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you save in taxes, you can put that money in the bank, and you're going to keep it. So it's the Roth conversions or Roth contributions is something I preach a lot,
mm-hmm.
particularly to young people, because they don't want to use a Roth in a 401k because they say, well, it's going to pay me more taxes. My question to them is, all right, John, you got a 401k and you're getting a tax deduction for it. I can tell you at some point in time, you're going to need that money to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
and that money is going to grow, and you're going to need even more. Have you put that money aside? Most people haven't.
Most people have not.
And I say, you just need to not spend as much money and use that to pay that tax and accumulate it. So when you retire, a bulk of your money is not in a taxable account. An IRA or 401k is like a mortgage. It's just growing and growing and growing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to retire with a mortgage on your home. Why do you want to retire with a mortgage on your retirement account?
I like that. A mortgage on your retirement account. I'm going to remember that one. That's going to stick. Probably because we're in the middle of paying off a mortgage right now. So,
Okay.
so I like that one. That's a mortgage on your retirement account.
And it grows, and you don't know what rate it's going to be.
Well, again, to the point of we don't know what the tax regulations, the tax laws, the rates, we don't know what they're going to be in 20 years, 10 years, 2 years.
Well, 2026, they're going to go up automatically if Congress doesn't do anything.
Yes, sir.
And with all the spending we have, they're probably going to go up a lot more. And I can show you rates that I've seen over my working years, and they're pretty high. They've never been this low, put it that way. Never been this low.
Talking about what you've seen over your working years, tell us a little bit about your career path, and from where you started to, where you're sitting here at CapSouth today.
Well, I've been in public accounting for many years, more years than I really want to probably think about. And then I worked with a client in private accounting for about 10 years over in Hampton, and that was in the 80s to 90s, I think it was. And then I decided I really wanted, the opportunity came, I just really wanted to get back in public accounting because basically, bottom line is private accounting is boring because it gets to the point, unless you're with a company that has a tremendous growth, it gets to be the same old, same old. And so I decided to go back into accounting practice, and I was in Hampton, and I had a practice in Griffin.
Yes, sir.
I didn't want to go to Griffin because I sold that practice, and I didn't want to have to deal with, trying to get back old clients. I didn't think it was quite right. So I was looking for a place to land, and I looked at McDonough.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons is that, the founders of the business I was working with were going to continue, and I was doing their personal work. And then I knew Buddy Welch through contacts with the business over there. And so I said, well, I'll just come over to Hampton, and started in the building next door to where you guys are, 18 Hampton Street, where at that time, Rainer Funeral.
Yes,
so
sir.
we had death and taxes covered right there.
Right there. Yes, sir.
And that started off, and I think one of the, I attribute growth to, which as I mentioned to you, and I think you asked a question about it, early on, when you're starting a business or any kind of business, you're going to have people knocking on your door. They want you to give to this and give to that. But when you're starting a business, and, you and two part-timers and you in the community, you don't know anybody, writing those checks are not very easy to do because you got a lot of personal bills you need to pay. And so I started volunteering for a lot of charitable organizations. I usually wound up as treasurer of them. And as the business grew, I kept doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The partners that came in with me did that. And we were all involved, either the churches, the chambers, Quality Growth, Friends House, Haven House. I mean, it's just about all of those. Somebody in our firm had some input and had some work in it. And I think that had a lot to do with the success. And Buddy Welch was a good friend, and he referred a lot of clients, and fortunately, that was very helpful to us. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So, I mean, I obviously, regardless of how involved you are socially or, from a benevolence or a charitable standpoint, you have to deliver a good service. So that's there. But then along with that, it sounds like you engaged in your local community in a charitable manner to give back through volunteering time and effort and expertise, and then also built relationships within the community that all fed back into your practice and allowed you guys to grow and succeed.
That, and there's a lot of continuing education, and basically I eat and sleep my business with my clients. I I don't have a lot of hobbies. I'm doing what I'm doing right now because that's what I love to do, and I don't know what I'd do without it. And if you have a passion to help your clients, and you take care and you take their interest, you don't have to worry about your interest. It's going to take care of itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a common, very common sentiment that in my prior interviews with other professionals, it always comes back to, if I make sure that my client is taken care of, if I do what is in their best interest, my best interest will follow.
Absolutely. That's been proven over and over and over for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You talked about the challenges, you and a couple part-timers when you were first starting out with the new firm here in McDonough. Obviously, we've already mentioned that the relationships with centers of influence, the community involvement, that helped overcome some of those startup challenges. But what else? I mean, I'm sure there were other things in starting a business, starting a practice in a town where you had, some relationships, but you'd been in other towns previously. And I think some of our listeners can really benefit from how you overcame that initial startup period, because a lot of our listeners are aspiring entrepreneurs who are getting their endeavors off the ground. Kind of what would you say to them, or what do you think you could share from your experience that would help them in establishing themselves?
Well, I think one of the first and foremost things you have to think about is when you go in business for yourself, you're in business with everybody. You have a lot of partners, and you've got to work extremely hard. And the hours that I had to put in, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people wouldn't have done it, but there was a lot of hours I had to put in to make it grow. And fortunately, my wife was very supportive and understood I need to be at the office Saturday. I need to be at the office Sunday. And so you need that support, and you need to be willing to fail forward.
Yes, sir.
If you don't fail, you're probably never going to succeed because you haven't tried anything, and you're going to stay flat. And if you want to stay flat, just don't take a risk. But if you want to move forward, you got to take a risk.
Several great points there, and I appreciate your sentiment about your support from home. That's something that I'll say I've been blessed with as well.
Huge difference.
It's all the difference in the world.
Exactly.
Because if I did not have that endorsement and support to go to work, probably wouldn't have been able to make it work.
No, I don't think you could.
I'm almost regretful that hasn't come up in the podcast before, because that is a really, really key piece. Got to have that support from home. Kind of circling back to where we are today and what's going on at CapSouth. Is there anything new coming down the pipe, or anything you'd like to tell folks to be aware of with CapSouth?
First and foremost, I guess, is we've put a contract on a lot on Jonesboro Street. Of course, with the cost, and I hate to say it, but dealing with the city of McDonough, I'm not sure how long that's going to take. It's probably at least a 2-year window, but it's 115 Jonesboro Street, at the corner of Low Street and Jonesboro.
Yes, sir.
And we've got a sign on it, and so hopefully we'll be there. The owner and principal founder of our business, Donald, said he's just tired of paying rent, and we've been in this location here 10 years, and I've been in this location well over 20 years. So.
Yes, sir.
And we just hired an intern from University of Georgia. I don't know if anybody's gone down that path. It's quite a extensive path to go down because there's a lot of hoops to do to get it. But we got a young man that's going to come here, and one of the objectives is to help us with technology. I like technology. As I told somebody the other day, they used to call me the gadget man. I still like it. I still would do webinars. I want to do more of that, and I want somebody to help us in that area of the business. And so our firm has had a really good year for its growth. I don't mean just because of the market, but I mean net cash flow in our business is money in, less money that you have to take out. So that's what you got to look at, not the market growth, because market growth can be taken away in a heartbeat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As we have seen.
We have seen.
Yeah, we've had a good year. We have a wonderful team supported by the owners of the business.
Mm-hmm.
They're very Christian-based and look after the community, and everybody in our firm, clients come first. And we have an incredible team here in this office, and we don't like to think that this is just our, McDonough, because we have clients all over the country.
Yes, sir.
In fact, I got a client in South Carolina I've never met before except on Zoom.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Well, once again, the technology is important.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we go more and more, and obviously, COVID and the pandemic, I think, accelerated that to an extent. You personally were ahead of that trend. I know it certainly changed us, and we've made a bigger commitment to technology, just the demands that came through the pandemic. But, to talk about something as personal as wealth management and the kind of relationship and trust that's needed to be able to extend the geography of which that's able to be done is an exciting development, I think, for any business.
Yeah, I like it. If you know me, I actually love it.
Yes, sir.
Because it's a way of just reaching out, and it's just enjoyable to do. You feel like you're accomplishing more.
Yes, sir.
And unfortunately, here in McDonough, because of our traffic, people don't want to come to the office anyhow.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of McDonough, I know you're as we've talked about, a big supporter of our community. Who are some other local businesses that you'd like to encourage our listeners, or at least our local listeners, or our listeners who may be passing through Henry County and McDonough? Who are some folks you'd like to tell them about that maybe they should consider supporting?
Well, I always like to support the local restaurants, and there's several here in town that I like and I go to a lot. Anthony's is one, Crust and Craft. Starshine, I think they're getting sort of settled as what they are. It's really good food. I like that. And Foxy Fox, believe it or not, that's the old Duncan, not I shouldn't say old, but the Duncan family used to have OBs.
Yes, sir.
Jeff owns that. And if you like catfish, they have good catfish. So, and it's sort of it's out at East Lake, and it's a place you don't always think about going, but they're good.
Yes, sir.
Kelly Leewood and Kathy Lee at L&M, they're good friends, and they've always been very responsive to me when I needed something, and I've enjoyed working with them. And Monterey at Thompson Market, I don't go there a lot, but my wife does, and I'm glad she does because the food is good. And we have a new puppy, my wife named is Louie, and we've taken him, I think, 2 or 3 times now to Paw Pad.
Oh, yes.
And that is a really neat place, good place if you love animals like I do.
Yes, we would entrust our fur babies to Paw Pad when we would go out of town, and they always took great care of them. So, yep, absolutely. So those are some great mentions, and listeners, obviously our local listeners, but anyone who may be passing through the McDonough, Henry County, Georgia area, I encourage you to check out some of these folks that Lewis mentioned. They're all great community partners, and you won't be disappointed to meet them. Lewis, I want to make sure we let folks know how to get in touch with you. Folks, you can find Lewis and his firm CapSouth online, www.capsouthwm.com. Lewis, what about any other contact information you'd like to share?
Well, the phone number you can call 678-695-6355. And I'm probably one of those rare persons. I'll give you my cell phone number. It's 404-697-4620. And I don't mind you calling me there or email me. I'm on LinkedIn. We have a Facebook presence. I don't use Facebook a lot. You'll probably see my puppy on Facebook more than you will me. But LinkedIn, I do look at it. I don't use it like I should, but I have a presence. You can find out about me on there. And we have all the technology. If you want an appointment, send me your email address. I'll send you an invite. You can look at my calendar and pick out your time.
Right there. Yes, sir. And what's that email address, Lewis?
It's lrobinson at CapSouthPartners.com.
lrobinson at CapSouthPartners.com. Perfect.
And just stay tuned for the Webinars, particularly in the charitable area. Like I say, I've got 2 coming out right now. And there's a platform I'm going to be using for that. And we'll send out notices if you. One of the things, if you send me your contact information, we send out a lot of emails, and I don't mean solicitation emails. They're newsworthy. They're talking about the tax laws. They're talking about what's going on in the markets, and it's news that you can use.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've accumulated that list over the years, and if you'll get us your name, we'll add it to you, that list, and make sure you stay on it.
And that's the best way to not only get the newsletter type updates, but also to gain access to the webinars.
Right.
Okay. Perfect. And we'll link that information when we post the podcast, so everyone, you'll be able to look right below the recording and see that information. Of course, we'll have the podcast posted and advertised through Strawn & Company Insurance's Facebook and Instagram as well. And we'll make sure that all of Lewis and CapSouth's information is posted there as well, so you'll have easy access to get in touch with Lewis and really have access to some incredible information that may impact you directly, maybe for your parents, maybe for your grandparents. It absolutely is pertinent to someone in your life. Lewis, anything else you'd like to share with us before we wrap things up?
One of the things that our firm prides ourselves in doing is asking great questions that lead to honest conversations that result in personalized financial plans. And our whole objective is to help a client lead their best financial life. It's not just getting the best rate of return. It's helping you live your best financial life. That we have a lot of meetings with clients. We're not telling them you need to quit spending. A lot of it, you need to do something and create memories for your families.
Yes, sir.
Spend some money. You can afford it. You need to take your kids and grandkids on trips. And we have them coming back telling us what great memories that created. And it's sometimes people just need that permission. And, of course, we're looking at the financial position and feel comfortable it's not going to be a strain on them.
If that doesn't connect with you, I don't know what will. So I'm glad you shared that.
And we pride ourselves in doing it, and that is our real objective, everybody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it's not a cookie cutter template.
No,
it's what are your needs?
Right, exactly.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Lewis, again, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time, sharing your story with us today. I certainly invite you and the firm, if new things are coming down the pipe in the future and y'all like to join us again, I think our listeners will always learn something from you. And so we're blessed to have you featured with us, and we'd love to have you again in the future if there's something else y'all want to share. And can't tell you how much we really appreciate it. All right. Well, folks, thank you so much for listening. Keep a watch out for new episodes coming in the future. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share the podcast with others. The more subscribers we have, the more it helps us, the more it helps our featured guests, and the more folks get to hear these great stories. So thank you so much for joining us, and make it a great day.